little twist coin pouches. This one's a little stiff because it's been folded shut and hasn't been opened up yet, but they pretty much, once you get them broken in a little bit, will open up, and then you just twist them closed. And you can just pop them open by squeezing them. So, typical thing, been around a long time. I know they were produced by a company in St. Louis by the bag full, somewhere in town, that had press dies that went ahead and did this. Just shaped it and formed it, and they could just stamp them out. But the way I've been doing it is with, like this pattern has, folding all these little lines by hand and pinching them together to try and get it to this shape. Well, this isn't really economical to make entirely by hand for what you can sell them for, because by the time you figure out your cost of your leather, then shipping if you're selling it on Etsy or something like that, to get an economical price, you don't get paid much for all the time you put into it. So I've been trying to streamline the whole thing. First step, of course, was making a clicker die to cut out pieces of leather, like this. That was a previous video. So now I've got something that can cut the leather out real quick for me. But I wanted something to go ahead and shape it. So I looked at one that I had partially shaped that was made out of too thick of a piece of leather, that I'd sit there and pinched it all together, shaped it, pounded it, got it to where it fit, and then opened it back up. Because it was too thick, it wanted to stay open. And I sat and worked with a computer program, a CAD program. It's actually online. It was Tinkercad. It's a free one that you can use. There's probably better stuff, but that's the one that I know how to use and have been playing with. But anyway, I figured out how to make something that is shaped kind of like this. And I went ahead and 3D printed it. So we've got this sort of complex octagon, tapered sides with different tapers to them, but it basically fits right inside this piece. So that's how I tested it. This was actually the second one I had to make because I didn't get it quite right the first one. And then I took and made a block that it fits into. Now, this, of course, has to be slightly bigger than the one that fits in it, because first off, it has to go in there, but also it has to go in there with a piece of leather stuck between them. And so there's got to be a little bit of a gap. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. So yeah, that fits in there. A little bit of a gap, but almost bottoms out. It should be about the same on all sides. And I tested that, made sure that it would work by making a little coin pouch with it. But I wanted something a little bit more durable. So you can see there's hot glue on the back of these. The next step along the line was I made molds with silicone for these shapes. So once I had the silicone molds, I could then cast with resin something a little bit more durable. So what I have here is my somewhat finished project after quite a bit of work. This is the base part of it, the bottom mold, and this tater masher from Mount Doom here is going to be the top part of it. There's been a little bit of sanding and finish work on it, and of course I've made this plate and handle, and just this resin is actually really easy to machine. So I drilled some holes and tapped them. We'll see how well that holds up over time, because this stuff felt like drilling through soap. But anyway, here's what it does. Basically, I kind of pushed the leather into place a little bit just to make sure it's all about where I want it to be. You don't want it down too far in there because it'll be hard to get the other piece in. And then you can just take this thing, shove it down in there, and give it a couple whacks with the mallet. This is where the handle's useful because it wants to stick a little bit, so you wiggle it out with the handle. And then you've got the sides pretty much shaped. You can fold it all together. I usually just do it by kind of pinching them in all together like this. Give it a little bit of a twist to where they close up. And you can primp it however you want. And then drop it back into your mold. Drop this thing back down on top of it. And hit it again. Just to kind of set that all the way down in there. Now you can, of course, spend more time on it than that, sitting and squishing it. But really, putting it down on your marble slab and putting something heavy on it, like another marble slab, and squishing it flat, and you've got it pretty much done. All you got to do then is, in this case, I would go back probably and dye it, color it, maybe just finish it, whatever needs to be done.